Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful today.
Is Sheila's attempt to save Steffy from Luna the vixen villain's downfall? To prevent Steffy Forrester from being shot, Sheila Sharp could act bravely by taking Luna Nozawa's lead pill. Yes, there is a lot to take in, but all indications point to that occurring. Here is what we currently know. Is Sheila going to be saved? Steffy was enticed to the beach house by Luna, where she restrained the teacher. When Steffy sees Luna's pistol, she becomes terrified, but someone saves her. Sheila quickly heads to the beach home after Taylor Hayes tells her where Steffy and Luna are. Sheila may end up protecting the wife of her son, John Finn Finnegan, because she doesn't want anything horrible to happen to either of them. We must stop Luna. We anticipate that Sheila will attempt to dissuade Luna from shooting herself once she arrives. Considering how much Luna hates Steffy, that seems insignificant, and she might need to act considerably more dramatically. Perhaps Sheila dodges in front of Steffy just in time to prevent her from getting shot after Luna shoots at her. Or perhaps Sheila gets shot while attempting to seize the rifle from Luna. Is Sheila a goner? However, Sheila may be shot and survive, which would make her a hero. In this scenario, she can continue living her dreamy existence in the small room above Il Giardino with Deacon Sharp. Do you believe Steffy will have to thank her monster-in-law for saving her life, BNB fans? There isn't a more ridiculous situation that comes to mind, but there it is. This action would propel some amazing narratives and put Sheila in the circle of redemption in the eyes of many. Will they accept Sheila's return? Explosive. According to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful, Finn might have a different perspective on his biological mother as a result of Sheila's behavior. Her attempt to inform Steffy about Luna shows that she is very worried about her. What do you think will happen to Sheila next, BNB fans? The air crackles with decades of accumulated malice, desperation, and the chilling scent of salt water near Luna Nozawa's beach house prison. Steffy Forrester, bound and terrorized, stares down the barrel of a gun wielded by a woman pushed beyond reason, her former student consumed by a vortex of obsession and perceived betrayal. Luna's finger tenses, hatred radiating towards Steffy, the symbol of everything she believes has ruined her life and stolen her future with RJ. In this suffocating microcosm of impending doom, where violence seems the only possible crescendo, the narrative trajectory of The Bold and the Beautiful teeters on the precipice of an event so seismic, so narratively audacious, that it threatens to shatter foundational character dynamics. Sheila Sharp, the eternal vixen, the architect of countless nightmares, the woman Steffy Forrester reviles above all others, throws herself into the path of Luna's bullet, sacrificing herself to save her daughter-in-law. This isn't just a plot twist, it's a potential masterstroke, a redemption arc forged in the most violent, selfless act imaginable, promising to rewrite Sheila's legacy, traumatize Steffy, redefine Finn's world, and irrevocably alter the show's landscape, simultaneously offering a potential end for the villain while questioning if true redemption can ever truly cleanse a past as dark as Sheila's. The path to this beach house confrontation is paved with escalating tension and surprising alliances. Taylor Hayes, driven by maternal panic and perhaps a sliver of pragmatism born of her own complex history with instability, made the unthinkable choice. She told Sheila Sharp where Steffy was. This act alone speaks volumes about the perceived level of threat Luna poses and the sheer desperation of the moment. Sheila's frantic race to the scene isn't fueled by a sudden surge of altruism for Steffy. Their history is a tapestry woven with threads of venom and violence, but by an undeniable, primal drive, protecting her son, John Finn Finnegan. Sheila understands, with terrifying clarity, that Steffy's death would utterly destroy Finn. His world, his heart, his very reason for being, revolves around Steffy and their family. Sheila's own twisted brand of love for Finn, the one seemingly genuine emotion in her arsenal of manipulation, compels her to intervene, not out of affection for Steffy, but to shield her son from unimaginable, soul-crushing grief. The image of Sheila, the perennial predator, transformed into a frantic protector rushing towards danger for Finn's sake, is inherently compelling, laying the groundwork for the ultimate sacrifice. Upon bursting into the charged atmosphere of the beach house, Sheila confronts a scene confirming her worst fears: Steffy helpless, Luna unhinged and armed. The initial instinct might be negotiation, a frantic attempt to reason with Luna, to appeal to any remaining shred of sanity. Luna, don't do this. Think of RJ. Think of yourself. This isn't the answer. Sheila might plead, her voice laced with an urgency rarely heard. But Luna, drowning in a toxic cocktail of betrayal, jealousy, and perceived abandonment, is beyond reason. Steffy represents the obstacle to her happiness, the source of her pain, and Luna's hatred burns too hot, too consuming, for Sheila's words to douse. Rational arguments are meaningless against the white-hot fury of obsession. Steffy's defiance, even bound, likely only fuels Luna's rage, pushing her closer to the irrevocable act. This moment highlights the futility of Sheila's initial approach. Luna's trajectory is set, the trigger finger tightening. Talk is weak, only action can stop the bullet. This is where the narrative pivots from predictable intervention to mythic sacrifice. As Luna's resolve hardens into homicidal intent, as Steffy braces for impact, time distorts. Sheila, processing the imminent horror not just for Steffy but for the devastation it will wreak upon Finn, makes a split-second decision. In a blur of movement fueled by adrenaline and that singular, ferocious maternal instinct, she lunges. The scenarios are variations on a theme of ultimate sacrifice, Sheila physically placing herself between Steffy and the gun just as Luna fires, the bullet meant for Steffy's heart finding Sheila's instead. Or, in a desperate struggle as Sheila tries to wrestle the gun away, a shot rings out during the chaotic grapple, felling Sheila while sparing Steffy. The method matters less than the outcome. Sheila takes the bullet intended for her mortal enemy, her son's beloved wife. The sound of the gunshot is deafening, followed by a stunned silence broken only by Steffy's gasp and Luna's horrified realization of what she's done. Sheila crumples, a crimson stain blooming on her clothing, her eyes perhaps locking with Steffy's for a fleeting, incomprehensible moment before fluttering shut. The vixen, the villain, falls, not in a blaze of vengeful glory, but in an act of shocking, selfless protection. The immediate aftermath is a maelstrom of conflicting emotions and narrative consequences. Steffy, physically unharmed but psychologically shattered, is confronted with an impossible reality. Her life is saved, but by Sheila Sharp. The woman who shot her, who terrorized her family for decades, who represented pure evil in her world, has just died for her. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. Relief at survival wars violently with disgust, disbelief, and a profound, unsettling sense of debt. Gratitude towards Sheila feels like a betrayal of her own history, her own trauma. Can she ever reconcile this final act with the monstrous legacy Sheila leaves behind? Luna, confronted with the horrifying result of her actions, the death of another human being, even one she despised, is likely plunged into catatonic shock or arrested, her own storyline potentially reaching a grim conclusion, her descent into villainy culminating in the ultimate crime. Finn, rushing to the scene upon hearing the news, is met with a tableau of horror, his wife traumatized but alive, and his biological mother, the woman he'd cautiously begun to tentatively trust, bleeding out on the floor having saved Steffy's life. His world fractures. The complex tapestry of love, resentment, fear, and reluctant connection he felt towards Sheila is instantly rewoven with threads of profound loss, agonizing gratitude, and devastating confusion. Does this act erase the past? Certainly not. But it irrevocably changes Finn's perception of Sheila's capacity for love, specifically her love for him, manifested in this ultimate sacrifice for the woman he loves most. His grief would be uniquely torturous, mourning a mother he never fully had and now can never truly know, while grappling with the monumental nature of her final deed. The long-term implications ripple outwards with tremendous force, fundamentally altering the show's dynamics. Redemption through sacrifice? Sheila's death in this manner forces every character, and the audience, to confront the ambiguity of her legacy. Is she redeemed? Can a lifetime of heinous acts, kidnappings, shootings, manipulations, murders, be absolved by one final, selfless deed? The answer is profoundly complex. True redemption typically requires acknowledgement, remorse, and atonement over time. Sheila likely dies without expressing explicit remorse for her past sins, her motive was singularly focused on Finn. Yet, the sheer magnitude of sacrificing one's life, especially for a victim like Steffy, cannot be ignored. It forces a re-evaluation. For many characters and viewers, it might shift her from pure monster to a tragically broken figure capable of one profound, redemptive act driven by twisted love. She dies a hero in the moment, even if her overall life remains villainous. Steffy's eternal torment. Steffy's psyche becomes a fascinating battleground. Surviving because of Sheila will be an everlasting torment. Every time she looks at Finn, her children, or even her own reflection, the debt will echo. It poisons her victories and complicates her grief. Her hatred for Sheila is now inextricably tangled with the uncomfortable, inescapable fact of her own survival. Can she ever make peace with this? Will it drive a wedge between her and Finn if he begins to idealize Sheila's sacrifice? Finn's fractured identity. Finn's journey becomes one of reconciling irreconcilable truths. The mother who caused him so much pain ultimately gave everything to protect his happiness. This fuels immense guilt. Could I have saved her if I'd accepted her sooner? Profound loss, and a desperate need to understand the enigma that was Sheila. It might draw him closer to Deacon Sharp, the one person who truly understood Sheila's complexity and loved her unconditionally, forging an unlikely bond forged in shared grief over the same complicated woman. Deacon's devastation and legacy. Deacon Sharp, who saw the flicker of humanity in Sheila and loved her despite it all, is utterly destroyed. His hard-won stability and happiness are obliterated. His grief would be raw and profound, potentially leading him down a dark path or fueling a relentless quest for justice against Luna, keeping Sheila's memory alive in complex, perhaps destructive, ways. A power vacuum and new dynamics. Sheila's permanent removal leaves a significant void in the show's antagonist roster. While new villains will emerge, her unique brand of chaotic, personal menace is irreplaceable. Furthermore, the shared trauma bonds Steffy, Finn, Taylor, and even Deacon in unexpected ways, creating new, potentially volatile, alliances and conflicts. Brooke and Ridge's reactions, relief at Steffy's safety mixed with utter disbelief and lingering hatred for Sheila, add another layer of familial complexity. The specter of Sheila Sharp, the redeemed villain through death, would haunt every interaction within the Forrester, Logan, Finnegan, and Sharp spheres for years to come. While death offers a definitive, dramatically potent conclusion, the alternative, Sheila surviving the gunshot, presents a different, equally complex set of challenges. Awakening as the heroine who saved Steffy, Sheila would face a world forced to acknowledge her act. Finn's gratitude and shifting perspective would be immense, potentially leading to a genuine, albeit fragile, connection. Steffy's obligation would be a constant source of tension, a life debt she could never repay and would resent deeply. Deacon would be overjoyed but face the daunting task of integrating a heroic Sheila back into a community that still fears and hates her. Could Sheila truly reform? Could she suppress her manipulative instincts? Would the writers squander the powerful redemption through sacrifice narrative for a potentially messy, long-term reformation arc that risks feeling unearned and diluting the impact? Survival offers ongoing story potential but arguably lacks the tragic finality and mythic weight of a sacrificial death. Ultimately, the scenario of Sheila Sharp dying to save Steffy Forrester from Luna Nozawa's bullet is not merely plausible, it's a narrative grenade with the power to redefine the bold and the beautiful. It leverages decades of history, exploiting the profound, twisted love Sheila holds for Finn to propel her towards an act that transcends her own villainy. It forces characters into psychological corners with no easy exits, Steffy indebted to her monster, Finn mourning the mother he never knew, Deacon shattered, and Luna consumed by the consequence of her final, fatal choice. It promises explosive drama, profound character exploration, and a potential endpoint for one of soap opera's most enduring villains, not with a whimper or a final act of evil, but with a shocking, ambiguous bang that leaves redemption a question mark etched in blood and sacrifice. Whether she meets her end or survives forever altered, Sheila Sharp diving in front of that bullet marks not just the potential end of the vixen villain, but the birth of a legend, a dark, complex, and unforgettable moment that would resonate as one of the boldest strokes in the show's long history, proving that even the blackest soul can find a flicker of light in the desperate desire to protect the one pure love they possess. The end for the vixen? Perhaps. But the beginning of a legacy infinitely more complicated and haunting? Absolutely. Luna's own grave is being dug. It's Luna Nozawa who is burying herself. Luna is burying herself. Furthermore, it appears that no one is prepared to stop her from engaging in her wild actions. For those of you who have been listening, Will recently captured her at the school doing things that would make Steffy Forrester furious. John Finnegan is doing nothing to keep her away from his wife and kids, despite the fact that she has grown to be a serious threat to his family. Naturally, there was a lot of discussion about the issue on the internet. Some have gone so far as to say, Luna is not thinking. She is acting out of sheer hatred. She informed Sheila that she would at least go out on a high note because of this. It's similar to those who carry out mass shootings before taking their own lives. So a murderer has threatened you, and you still send your kid to school, and you run all over the place alone, wrote another show critic. Send Finn to speak with the instructor at the school. How about keeping quiet until Luna is located? What will happen to Luna next? Another comment said, the plot is terrible, but the actress who plays Steffy is actually pregnant and about to give birth, so they had to figure out how to give her maternity leave without killing her off. I would wager that Steffy would get shot and go into a coma. Steffy Forrester's throat like shrapnel, take the gun from her. Wasn't merely an instruction to Luna Nozawa, it was the detonation point of a meticulously constructed pressure cooker of terror, betrayal, and primal survival instinct, transforming the elegant Forrester living room into a nightmarish amphitheater where past traumas bled violently into the present, forcing Luna, wide-eyed and trembling with the paralyzing innocence of someone utterly unprepared for the abyss, to become an unwilling gladiator in a fight she never sought, her trembling hands propelled not by courage but by the sheer, animalistic imperative echoing in Steffy's voice, a sound that bypassed rational thought and plunged directly into the lizard brain's command center screaming danger, death, act now. This wasn't a calculated strategy whispered in hushed tones, it was the raw, guttural cry of a woman staring down the barrel of her own personal demon incarnate, Sheila Carter, whose very presence radiated a chaotic malevolence that seemed to warp the air itself, thick with the acrid scent of desperation and the metallic tang of the weapon gleaming wickedly in her grasp, a cold, hard promise of finality that had haunted Steffy's nightmares since the day Sheila nearly stole her life, a trauma etched so deeply into her psyche that seeing that gun, that specific instrument of her past terror, held aloft by that specific monster, triggered a synaptic cascade bypassing fear and landing squarely in the white-hot forge of furious, protective action. Steffy's leap wasn't a thought, it was pure kinetic reaction, a blur of protective fury aimed like a missile at Sheila's center of gravity, her entire being focused on one singular, all-consuming objective: neutralize the threat, disarm the monster, shield the vulnerable. Yet, the sheer, unpredictable ferocity of Sheila, a woman whose grip on sanity was always tenuous and now seemed utterly shattered, her eyes reflecting a terrifying cocktail of panic, rage, and a frighteningly focused determination, transformed the simple act of disarming into a visceral, three-way ballet of desperation played out on a knife's edge. Steffy's hands, strong and fueled by righteous fury and the memory of pain, clamped onto Sheila's wrists like steel vices, applying pressure meant to shock and release, her muscles screaming with the effort, her mind a whirlwind of past gunshots and the terrifyingly immediate future she was determined to prevent. Sheila, however, wasn't yielding, her own grip, born of decades of survival on the fringes and a terrifyingly potent adrenaline surge, tightened convulsively around the gun's grip, her knuckles bleaching white, her body twisting like a cornered animal, snarling curses and threats that were less words and more guttural expulsions of pure hatred, her entire weight thrown into maintaining possession of her perceived lifeline and instrument of control, the gun becoming an extension of her chaotic will, a symbol of the power she craved and wielded with such devastating consequence. And caught in the terrifying vortex of this titanic struggle, Luna stood frozen for a fraction of a second longer, Steffy's command echoing in the hollow chamber of her shock, take the gun from her. The words finally penetrating the fog of terror, forcing her limbs into motion not through bravery, but through a terrified obedience to the sheer, undeniable urgency radiating from Steffy, a woman Luna had come to respect and perhaps even fear, now embodying raw, protective ferocity. Luna's hands, smaller, less experienced, and used to violence, darted into the chaotic tangle of straining arms and clawing fingers, her movements hesitant yet driven by the primal understanding that inaction meant potential catastrophe, her fingers brushing against the cold, unforgiving metal of the barrel, then Sheila's sweat-slicked knuckles, then Steffy's straining forearm, a horrifying intimacy forced upon her. The struggle became a grotesque, multi-layered sculpture of desperation, Steffy pulling, twisting, leveraging her strength and position, her face a mask of grim concentration mixed with the ghosts of past violence, Sheila pushing back, jerking wildly, her teeth bared in a feral grimace, her strength amplified by madness and the desperate knowledge that losing the gun meant losing everything, possibly her freedom. Certainly her twisted sense of agency, and Luna, adding her fragile weight and frantic grip to Steffy's efforts, her fingers scrabbling for purchase, trying to pry Sheila's fingers loose or simply wrest the weapon away, her breath coming in sharp, terrified gasps, her eyes wide with the dawning horror of her reality. She was physically grappling with a notorious killer over a loaded gun.